Hey guys, and we're live. So since I can't really do a proper video tonight, I figured I'd just do a bit of a stream of consciousness here and talk about a couple of things. And the first thing I wanted to talk about is obviously the image here that you should be seeing on the screen. Now it says, women have with higher IQs have a harder time finding a mate. Talk about is obviously the image here. I just had a stream inside of a stream. Streamception. Anyway, women with higher IQs have a harder time finding a mate. Intelligent women would rather remain single than be with the wrong person. Okay, so we're turning this into a gendered thing. Quite honestly, I know what you're thinking at first. You're like, well, but what about all those logic and reason men? Surely if these two intellectual powerhouses combined, they would be unstoppable, right? But I don't think this is as gendered as they're trying to make it out to be. They're basically just generalizing. And if we're going to generalize, I don't think that it's men don't like intelligent women. I think it's that they don't like to be made to feel inferior, which, by the way, that also applies when the roles are reversed. But rather than just a preference, in that context, it's often framed as abuse. You know, they'll say, well, men want less intelligent women so they can feel good about themselves and be in control of the relationship. But when you really break it down, it's just basically people don't like to be made to feel like they're stupid by their significant others. I mean, who would have guessed, you know? So it's really stupid to say, well, this is how women are. They're the only ones that would rather hold out than, you know, be with the wrong person. And I don't really believe that at all. I think what happens, and this kind of leads me into my next topic, I think what happens is people become impatient. They become disillusioned after, you know, breakups and hardships in relationships. They think, well, you know, I've given parts of myself to other people and I've been disappointed. So now I'm just going to live for me and I'm going to have quote unquote fun and not really care about what anybody else says or thinks. And it's, you know, it's great to live for yourself and depend on yourself for happiness. But I think oftentimes with that mindset, you kind of forget to care about other people. Sorry, hold on a sec here. Just got a question. Okay. But anyway, yeah, so people get impatient. They get selfish. They start to think, why am I trying so hard to please others when nobody really pleases me? And I can sort of understand that. I've been disappointed many times, but you can't really take that out on other people. You can't blame other people for your relationship failures or disappointments. It's not, you know, it's not something that you can blame on everybody else. It's not everybody else's fault that you've been hurt. It's the person that hurt you. It's the people that have hurt you. You can't blame many for the actions of a few, and that applies to so many different things today that I talk about in my videos, even with, you know, when it comes to race and gender and feminism and MGTOW and all that stuff. You know, they have a bad habit of generalizing and blaming everybody that is part of the group, and they just take it to a whole other level and say, oh, well, since I've been through this, it must apply to everyone, rather than thinking about it as, you know, I've just met some bad individuals and had some bad luck. Now, stereotypically, you can say that people share identical mindsets and values and behaviors, but if you start to look at everybody as the same and you judge everybody in that way, you might be missing out on some really good people. Now, this is sort of a bit of a theory that I have on this so-called hookup culture, as people put it, which I really hate now that everything has to be a culture. You know, we have to refer to everything as a culture. It's all its own subculture. I don't really understand how hooking up, which by the way is a term I think is stupid as well, but you'll find that I think a lot of terms are stupid today. I don't understand how that can be a culture, but whatever. So basically, as I was saying, people have become entirely too self-indulgent, too selfish, really. They, like I said, they're disillusioned. Um, they want instant gratification. We're in this era where, you've got your smartphone, you've got your high-speed internet connections, you've got your PCs. Everything is available to you at the click of a button. Everything is simple now. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing. There are definitely conveniences to it. But my theory, and you can accuse me of tinfoil stuff and whatnot, is that this has kind of bled over into other aspects of life. Basically, people want instant gratification. They expect it everywhere. They don't think that they should have to wait. They don't take the time to build a relationship. They say, well, I'm horny, I want fun now. And they'll go out and they'll get it, rather than maybe saying, you know what, it's probably not a good idea for me to go around and sleep with all these different people. As much as I'm a human being and I have hormonal desires, it's probably better for me both emotionally and physically, health-wise, if I try to wait, try to find a nice person, build a great relationship with them, and then have the intimacy that comes along with it. I'm probably going to be viewed as quote-unquote sex negative or old-fashioned or whatever, but it seems entirely too rare for people that have these values and morals and that think, intimacy should come along with a deep mental and emotional connection rather than just a night of fun. Now, people can do what they want, but as for me personally, I think it's more important to form that connection rather than treat everybody as replaceable. That's the thing. People say, well, I want a relationship, I want someone to care about me, but yet you'll note from their own behavior, they go around treating others, they treat everybody as they're replaceable. Nobody believes you can have a constant, and I understand that because in my personal experience, it seems that I'm always the one that wants to stick around while everybody else moves on with their lives. And it becomes disappointing. You kind of wonder, am I just being too idealistic? But I would rather hold on to that hope that someone will stay rather than drop my standards and drop my wants just for, meaningless fun or instant gratification that after a while, you're not going to be happy with. You're going to want to be seeking something deeper, and you're not going to find it if you just treat people as they're replaceable and, you just hook up with everyone and it's just a bunch of different faces every night as though you're passing people on the street. It's better in my view, and I'll say my view because I know not everyone will agree, to have that one special someone than a bunch of meaningless no ones. That's something that a lot of people don't seem to care much about today, and I find it a little sad. I think it makes it hard to find a relationship. It even makes it hard to find friendships, simply because you often, when you form a friendship, obviously you want to share common ground, you want to share common values, and it's very hard to relate to people when they're into a very different scene than you are. Now, I can have friends that I disagree with on certain issues. I can have friends that have different hobbies, but it's very hard for me to relate to people that have different core values. And it's in human nature to want to feel connected in some way to others. You really don't it gets old after a while, feeling like you're the only one that feels a certain way, and it gets disappointing. So I can definitely understand why some people become so disillusioned and they start to treat relationships as though they're no big deal because they're tired of being disappointed. They don't believe, they've stopped believing in love. They've stopped believing that there's something special out there. Um, yes, chat, I do believe there is only one of you here, which is fine. Well, this will be archived later, I suppose. What am I doing? Oh, I'm still screen sharing. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand on that, and I try not to come off as preachy. I try to keep my strong views. I don't want to say to myself because I have no problem expressing my feelings to others, but we live in this world where everybody is so easily offended, and if you say the wrong thing, it's instantly you're shaming other lifestyles. And I just don't subscribe to that because people are so set on forcing their values and their thoughts onto you, but the moment you counter that, it's kind of like, oh well, you're shaming me, you're slut shaming, you're whorephobic. Yeah, whorephobic. They actually believe that's a thing. Why would you think? To me, it makes sense to be adverse to sleeping with a quote unquote sex worker because maybe you value sex as something more than two bodies rubbing together. Maybe you want that emotional connection. You don't want just a night of fun. Maybe you are adverse to the presumably higher risk of getting an STD. And I don't necessarily think that means that it's a phobia. It means that you're trying to be smart and responsible with your health, both mentally and physically. Let me see here. Okay. So just want to check. Just going to be checking the chat every once in a while. But yeah, I had a discussion about this earlier, and it kind of inspired me to come on and talk about this a little bit. Often we find ourselves disappointed by people, not only because of differing values, but because when you meet somebody new, there's that initial attraction where you're like, oh man, I finally found someone cute that I feel like I want to talk to. She acts like she wants to get to know me. And you kind of project your own ideals of what you want that person to be onto that person. And it can warp your perception a little bit on who they actually are. And later on, that can cause issues when you come to find that this person is not exactly who you thought. And it's not necessarily that they're a bad person, but it's more of that your values and your opinions and your thoughts don't align in the way that you thought they did. Simply because when you find someone, like I said, you're excited, there's that initial attraction, you want to believe that, this is the person. You're like, I've been looking for a long time, my search is over, I'm very interested in this person. And so then you begin to idealize, you kind of put them up on a pedestal, you think they can do no wrong. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with wanting to appreciate someone for who they are, but I think it's important to try to separate your perception of this person versus who they actually are as a person. It can become a little bit confusing sometimes because there are times where a person will want to impress you, so they'll be on their best behavior or they'll be more agreeable to the point where you can't really tell if it's your ideals or it's actually them coming through. And it takes a little while to find out that sometimes, but I think it's very important to be open and honest right from the get-go about who you are and what you want, simply so that you can avoid those possibilities later on. I've had a couple of relationships like that where you believe something about them and later on you find out that it was more of what you projected onto them. It's more of what you hoped they would be rather than what they actually are. And I know I'm being a little bit vague, but this kind of applies to so many different things that it's best if I don't give a very specific example. I've had, I've even had the same problem where I wasn't the one projecting my ideals, but they were kind of projecting theirs onto me. And, they liked me for me, but they also wanted certain aspects and they kind of projected them onto me and hoped I had them. Even something as silly as wearing a certain type of clothing. Let's say they're generally attracted to somebody that likes to dress up, likes to wear more dressier clothes. And for me, I'm a very casual person. So, I'm just like t-shirt, jeans, whatever, don't really care. So it kind of, and I know that's not a big deal, but I'm a very big believer in being who you are, being the true you, and being appreciated for that in all aspects. If you want to be with a person, you have to take into account not only what you like about them, but what you don't like about them. And you have to take the whole entire package as it is. I'm not saying that means that people can never improve or work on themselves, but it's important to try to not impose change upon them. Because it gets to a point where you are creating somebody rather than helping them through their life. You should be improving each other in a positive way rather than making somebody feel as though they're not good enough and they need to do these certain things to become the person you want them to be. They should be trying to become the very best version of themselves rather than the very best version of who you want them to be. And I think that goes, that's not a gendered problem. And I think a lot of times we find, these Tumblr ideologies and these, these feminist channels and these MGTOW channels, and they just want to talk about it like it's one big general picture where it's gendered behaviors, and it's not. You can say that one side may do something more typically than the other, but there's always exceptions to the rule, and it's important to realize that people are individuals, and you can't define them solely by their gender. There's so many aspects that go into who a person becomes as they grow up and develop. And to limit that experience to their genitals seems way too simplistic. I mean, you are ignoring upbringing, you're ignoring culture, you're even ignoring, like the kind of neighborhood that they've been in. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like I said, I don't necessarily think that it means that people should never improve themselves. But if you get to the point where somebody's making you feel bad over who you are, when you're not necessarily mistreating them or disrespecting them or anything of the sort, that's where you have a problem. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I wanted to touch upon here. I did make a couple of notes, so I'm just running over that real quick to see if there's anything I forgot. So, okay. Well, I know not everybody is interested in finding a long-term relationship. Not everybody operates the same. I think on some level we all want to connect with somebody else, but it's not necessarily the most important thing for everybody, and that's fine. But at the very least, you do want companionship of some sort, usually. Brianna Wu train wreck. Are we talking about the whole Samus is trans thing, or did something new happen that I've missed out on? because I haven't been paying too much attention. The last I heard was the follow-up article on the other stream that I did. I know there's a little bit of a delay between the chat and the stream itself. Yeah, the Samus thing. Yeah, I did 2 videos on that. Well, technically I did 3 because back in January, somebody else wrote an article. I'm jumbling all my words here now. Somebody else wrote an article about the Samus is transgender. I did that video a couple of months ago, and then I noticed that it started getting hits again. And so I went and, I went on Twitter and I see somebody posting like, oh, Brianna Wu saying Samus is transgender. So in part, I actually kind of have to thank her for being such a nut job because she gave my video more hits. But yeah, I did 2 streams about those articles that she wrote. So I hate to be the kind of guy who's like, well, go and watch my videos. But my drawn out thoughts on that are in those videos. But basically what I think is she's just trying to make herself relevant again. And she found an easy way to do it where she could just frame everybody that disagrees with her as a bigot. It's the typical defense that we've all come to expect. They just want blind agreement, and if you don't agree, they conveniently frame it as harassment, abuse, bigotry, and all that. I really hate that. It's a very convenient defense, and for some reason, people don't think it through enough, and they don't realize that it's just a smokescreen to shield their stupidity. There's like no possibility for debate with these people. She was so disingenuous in that follow-up article. She's like, oh, if you can't handle the mere possibility that Samus is trans, you have a problem. But in the first article, they didn't say mere possibility. They said Samus Aran is trans, deal with it. That's an assertion, not a possibility. And I don't know how anybody could read that follow-up article and not realize the hypocrisy behind it. Has there been anything else going on in the, I don't know, controversy, I guess? Because I haven't been, like, I look on Twitter and sometimes that's where I find ideas for topics. The most recent thing I saw was somebody wrote an article trying to say that stealth games had a more, I want to say it was like a less masculine type of guy as a main character. Just with any of the whole social justice in gaming in general, I guess. Because I haven't really heard anything about it. But yeah, I'm really tired of this whole let's warp characters to fit our needs. I haven't really discussed the whole Sarah Butts thing because I don't, she's not somebody that I paid attention to. I have heard the accusations. I don't want to say accusations if it's been proven, but that's what I'm going to call it because I haven't probably looked into it. I saw that Leo Pirate video about it, and that, that seemed to compile a lot of evidence against her. I'm very surprised that people are still supporting this person, but at the same time, I shouldn't be. I mean, I don't think she's relevant. This is just some idiot that speaks a lot of bullshit on Twitter, and I think it really, in these cases, it would be best not to pay attention. I know that, maybe that's kind of hypocritical because I responded to the Brianna Wu video or article with my video, but, let's be real here. Nobody's going to, or she's not going to watch my video, so I'm not really directly contacting her. I try to avoid going after specific people, and I'd rather talk about the ideas they're presenting instead of instead of going after the person and talking about the person. But, she was the author of the article, so you got to call it what it is. I just like to go into the discussion about what it is they're presenting. Sure, I'll crack jokes, but to me, these people aren't as important as they believe they are. And a lot of the times, they keep themselves relevant through backlash. So really, if you think about it, it would be best not to give them the attention that they crave. I mean, if everybody stopped watching, say, Anita Sarkeesian's videos, she'd go away. I mean, maybe she would still be standing there in the background yelling misogyny, but if nobody's paying attention to her, then she's not going to be as relevant as she wants to be. Okay. I know I'm kind of running out of topics here. Because basically what I came in here to talk about was the whole relationships issue with society. I guess one more thing that I could touch upon, because this actually came up in my discussion earlier, it was that the whole idea that we have to teach men not to rape. Now, this is silly to me for multiple reasons. The first, it would be if somebody has the mindset where they believe that it's okay to actually rape somebody, or they don't have the mentality to realize that it's wrong or that it's something they shouldn't do. I don't even think that they don't think it's wrong. They know it's wrong because they don't just out and say, well, guess what I did last night. They do hide it, so they know what they're doing is wrong, and maybe that's even part of the thrill for them. But to me, those people are not mentally stable. So simply telling them, oh, please don't rape anybody, that's not going to be effective. The idea that it is victim blaming to try to get people to defend themselves, to keep themselves safe, to realize that while it's not right for anybody to be raped, we have to do what we can to protect ourselves. That, to me, is bullshit. I mean, it's entirely ridiculous to walk through the world expecting everybody else to keep you safe, to hold your hand, and to never cause you any harm. I mean, I realize how wonderful it would be to walk around in a society like that, but it's insane. You can't do that. It's never going to happen, because there's always going to be the outliers that don't give a fuck about the law, that don't care what you think, what you say. They're going to do what they're going to do, and you simply telling them not to isn't going to stop anybody. I mean, have words ever stopped a war? I mean, people kill each other all the time. We know it's wrong, but they do it anyway. Scratch point on point. Well, thank you. I like the joke there. But yeah, I don't like this. I think it's very important to take personal responsibility for your safety. Do as much as you can to keep yourself safe. If you want to take a self-defense class, great. If you want to carry your pepper spray, you want to carry a pocket knife, I say do whatever you can. Worry about yourself. Realize that while not everybody is out to harm you, there certainly are people that might. And, obviously, I don't even think I would walk down the street in the wrong neighborhood at night, I don't feel safe, and I'm a guy, so I don't understand. I've walked through dark parking lots with my keys in hand just in case. You never know what somebody else is going to do. I mean, you can't walk around all paranoid, but at the very least, take steps to defend yourself. It's like these people are trying to create this perfect society, and all the while they're not acknowledging, they say teach men not to rape. Well, if you want to actually teach people not to rape, remove the gendered aspect, because it's something that women do as well. Tumblr in action. I've visited, the subreddit. I've gone there before. I'm actually subscribed to it. I do check it out from time to time. But usually when I compile posts for one of my Tumblr on videos, I actually go on Tumblr itself and I search the tags and try to get as many posts that I can that are relevant to the topic. Unfortunately, oftentimes I find a lot of really long topics that I want to talk about, but if I take that post, it would make it like a 40-minute video, and I usually like to grab a bunch of smaller posts and collect them together and do anywhere from like a 5 to 10-minute one. Not that I'm adverse to longer videos, but if I'm doing a, say, Tumblr on fat acceptance, I don't want to take just one post apart that's on fat acceptance. I want to take a bunch and, mock them or talk about them. But yeah, I think I could, like I did with the feminist analysis on dating and age differences. That was just one post, so I'm not against doing it, but I don't want to do it when it comes to one of the larger videos. I actually have Tumblr on the male gaze coming up, so that one's going to be fun. I have everything written up for it. I just haven't had a chance to record it. White author under fire for Asian. Do anything about crazy bitch who talked her boyfriend into committing suicide. No, I didn't. I heard about it, but I didn't actually read the article on it or anything, so I don't know too much about it. But that's pretty messed up. Like I said, I don't know the circumstances of the relationship, so I'm not entirely sure what took place. I mean, if you have a link or something, you can private message it to me. I can also, I'm sure I could go ahead and look it up myself. Hell, maybe we could look it up right now. It's not like I got anything else going on. Not Girl Meets World. Wow. All right. Thank you for your assumption, Google. Oh, you know what? That's funny. That came up. The actress, one of the actresses, the little girls from Girl Meets World, the Boy Meets World follow-up, she made some sort of feminist post on Instagram or something, and I read it, and I was like, wow, this girl definitely has a Tumblr account. But, okay, girl talks boyfriend into killing himself. All right. Let's see. Texts appear to show urging boyfriend to killers. This one's from August 31st, so maybe I'll check this one out. Woman accused of coaxing depressed boyfriend into suicide. Oh, shit. I don't even understand how you could do something like that and actually feel good about yourself. Like, wow, that's insane. Massachusetts teen accused of convincing her friend to commit suicide faces involuntary manslaughter charges after prosecutors say text messages show she was an accessory. Is this the right story? Is this the same one or is this a different one? I was actually watching that on Netflix the other day, and I admit I like it too. Just because, like, Boy Meets World growing up, that was one of my favorite shows. So it's cool to see the same people back in their old roles. But yeah, do you guys know if this is the story, if I'm reading the right story here? Because it sounds like it is, but however, okay, let's see. Defense argued Michelle Carter was also troubled and was just trying to help her boyfriend. So she was trying to help him by telling him to kill himself? Wow, what kind of help is that? Let's see. Did not talk about thousands of text messages. Accused of coercing the 18-year-old into committing suicide. In one text, she said to Roy, "You said you were going to do it. I don't get, like, why you aren't." Roy responded, "I don't get it either. I don't know." Wow. Defense argued Carter actually encouraged Roy not to take his own life, that the judge should drop the manslaughter charge because her attorneys claim she was brainwashed. Brainwashed by who? Government is harping, if you will, on her saying, "When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it?" What they're not harping on are all the time she said, "Don't do it, don't do it." So where are these text messages? Let's see. The controversy there is whether or not they can nail the girl for manslaughter or anything because she didn't kill him herself, and encouraging someone to kill themselves isn't illegal. So it's not. Wow, that's kind of surprising. I feel like you would at least have to be like some kind of accessory. I mean, sort of getting, I want to say that's like almost getting into grounds of like assisted suicide, but that's not quite the same thing because in assisted suicide, you're actually physically helping. His death is my fault. I was on the phone with him and he got out of the car because it was working and he got scared and I told him to get back in. Why would she do that? So carbon monoxide poisoning. And I did the car thing. Her words are not protected, Your Honor. Her words are harmful, offensive, and likely to cause an immediate violent act. Could face 20 years in prison. I don't understand what she was thinking to do this. He was in that fragile state, yes, and I think he could have been manipulated not to. So she's basically admitting to the fact that she feels responsible? I'm just kind of skimming, guys. That's insane. I really don't understand. If you tell someone to kill themselves considering encouraging suicide and get a fine of $25,000 and 10 years in prison. Yeah, I mean, I think that's... You know, I personally, like, even though I'm somebody that has personally faced a lot of depression and even suicidal thoughts, I'm not sure if I would ever get to the point of listening to somebody else tell me to kill myself. I think what the kind of reaction that would get out of me is anger more than anything else. But maybe if it's coming from somebody you really care about, like a girlfriend, and you know, he might have been in love with her and took her opinion of him to heart, I could see that. But honestly, yeah, if she did this and she's responsible, I definitely hope that she faces the consequences because that's totally messed up. I mean, you would think that, you know, this girl could have done so many other things. If she was getting to the point where, and I've even had this problem before in my life where, you know, somebody will say, well, your depression is starting to affect me negatively. And I can kind of understand where they're coming from on that. You know, you don't want to burden somebody else with your emotions. You don't feel good about that or right about that. But there's so many other things that this person could do rather than tell somebody to kill themselves. You know, she could have went to his parents. She could have went to a professional. She could have called the suicide hotline, you know, crisis prevention center, a therapist, anything other than encouraging the guy to end it. I mean, is she going to try to come from the defense that she felt like she couldn't break up with him or something because he was so depressed? Because, quite frankly, I think that's a load of bullshit. You can't fix somebody's depression. I know that for a fact that, you know, all the coercing and positive talk in the world isn't gonna bring somebody out of a deep depression, especially if they're at the point of being suicidal. I I mean, you could probably maybe get them to hold on a little longer till you can get help for them, but you'll never take that feeling out of them. They have to get the proper help. But yeah, she should have definitely done anything else other than that. I mean, I don't even see where that's a solution. It kind of takes a sick person in their own right, in my view. I mean, so clearly she has some problems of her own, and that's not to say that's an excuse for her. Like, I don't think it would be right for her to suddenly play the mental health card and get out of jail free. But if you don't have the humanity to help your own boyfriend, even if you say you fall out of love with him and you don't want to be with him anymore, if you don't have the humanity or the common decency to get help for the guy, there's something wrong with you. But yeah, that's an interesting story. I've read about it a while ago, but I never looked deeply into it. This article is not very informative. It kind of just gives a basic idea of what went down. Sounds like she belongs to Gamer Ghazi. Well, I don't know. I've been banned from there for saying that being anti-feminist doesn't necessarily mean that you hate women. And you know, I'm not even somebody that labels myself as anti-feminist, so it was more of playing devil's advocate, kind of just pointing out the other side of the discussion, that just because you stand against feminism, it doesn't necessarily make you a misogynist. People seem to forget that the opposite of something isn't necessarily opposing. It's either indifference or opposing. It's not too hard to get banned over there. Like I said, I was completely calm and collected in my comments, and they weren't having it. The reason they gave me, you know, they send you a moderator message. The reason they gave me was LOL. That's it. And the ironic part was that somebody gave me Reddit gold for the comment, and then they banned me. I don't know if it was the same person. That'd be a little twisted, but it was interesting because I'm not much of a Reddit guy, so I've never got the whole gold thing. I don't even know what it does. Whatever it did, I didn't even take advantage of it, and then it just ran out. Mother and her lesbian lover beat toddler to death over 8 days, then tried to frame 7-year-old boy for his murder. Holy shit. Yeah, there's some sick people out there. You know, that reminds me of a post I saw on Twitter earlier. They were saying cancel Father's Day because fathers just abandon their families. So I was like, you know, cancel Mother's Day because some mothers kill their children. I mean, how do you get these, how do you get into this mindset where you just generalize everybody? Usually when I find screwed up stories, it's either somebody's posting them on Twitter, or if I am reading one screwed up story, you know, like you scroll down to the bottom of the page and it basically links to others. So you just kind of end up in this downfall of humanity all wrapped into one internet article. The news is depressing. I mean, we really focus on the absolute worst of the worst. I think we kind of need, I'm not even the kind of person that's like, oh, optimism, positivity, but I think really sometimes we need more positive news just to keep us hanging on, just to show us that it's not all shit out there, you know? Well, that's true. Hive mind. It's very prominent on the internet, especially. I mean, I've never actually met somebody in real life that has the Tumblr mindset. But then again, right now where I live, it's not a very large area, and it's probably got a lot more of the opposite side of the spectrum, where a lot of the people are rather racist in their mindset. Um, but yeah, I've never met somebody that's very outward in their hive mind ways, except for on the internet. Firefighter lays next to child car crash victim, plays happy feet to keep him calm. Well, that's nice. I think, yeah. I mean, we need more stories about that kind of stuff. I remember reading about the cop, and I believe he was a white guy. So much for that whole every cop is a racist narrative. And I don't remember exactly how he met the boy, but he met a young black boy, and he realized that the boy didn't have. I think the boy was trying to run away from home. So he took the boy home and realized, like, oh, he didn't have a bed, he didn't have certain toys or whatever. So he went out and bought him a bunch of stuff, and then he played basketball with him, and then like they kind of formed a little friendship, and he goes back in to check on him once in a while. I thought that was a really cool story. I like to hear about that stuff. That what you mentioned there about the officer digging the man digging through the trash, that reminds me of the old man that got arrested for feeding the homeless. And I just thought that was so messed up. People are more guarded with their political stance in public. Yeah, I can definitely see that. They're kind of afraid to spark the fire, so to speak. It's kind of like, it's that cliche where they say the two things you don't discuss are religion and politics. And I guess that kind of rings true, because usually those discussions are the absolute fastest way to lead to a heated discussion. But then you have the complete opposite on the internet, where you have the aspect of being anonymous, where you kind of feel like there's no consequences for what you say, because what's the worst that happens is that somebody gets pissed off at you on the other side of the computer and calls you misogynist or something, or you can, on the opposite side of the spectrum, you can call them a racist or a homophobe or whatever. I think there's a slight delay with the chat, but at least the YouTube stream works better than Twitch. But that's for gaming, so it's a little bit different. Well, all right, guys. I think I've touched upon everything that I was going to touch upon for tonight, so I'm going to wrap it up here. But I'd like to, thank you all for coming by and hanging out with me. It's been fun, and we'll do it again. I usually don't set a schedule. I kind of just usually do this stuff on just kind of out of the blue, because I feel like when I set a schedule, I always end up getting to a point where I'm not going to do it. But if I do it spontaneously, I jump in there, cover all my points, and wrap it up rather nicely. But yeah, thanks for coming by, and we'll see you next time. Take it easy, guys. Oh, you want a Google Hangout? Do you follow me on Twitter? Or like you private message me or something? That's cool too. Do you want to do it now? Is that what you're saying? All right. Well, how about this? I'm gonna end this stream, and then you guys send me a PM or something, and we'll see what's up. All right. Take it easy.